Now, I'm sure you weren't unique, but I don't remember it being done previous. And it's funny because it's become very common.
Yes. Yes.
You batted your best two
Yeah.
batters 1-2. Now, baseball tradition has always been 3-4, right? You batted Todd Frazier and Scott Fisher 1-2. And I don't know that I had seen it before that.
No, probably not. I'll tell you how that came about. Yeah, well, it was Jeff and Colin, and then it was Todd and Scotty,
Yep.
and then it was Campese and Casey. And in 1992 or 93, a good friend of mine who Casey had played soccer with, Greg Heiler, just a great guy. He was down there with the Little Leaguers and stuff. And he went down to a district game. And down in Barnegat, it was the district finals. And he had J.M. Gold and Adam Chiapano. They were batting 3-4. They lost by a run. The game ended in a 2-hole. And you know what he said to me? He says, if I have an all-star team, my best guy's going up top because you only play 6 innings. And if you can, the more you can turn them over, the better chance you have of winning. And, to kind of extend that story a little bit, so that became my theory going forward. So in 1995, we're playing a Manalapan All-Star team that had the bases loaded. We were up by 3, 5-2. Jeff had hit a couple home runs. He was on a mound. He's run out of gas. He's got the bases loaded. He's got the 2-hitter up with a full count. Strikes him out. The 3-hitter was Anthony Buffon, who became Jersey Shore Player of the Year, holds hitting records Manalapan. He was already 3 for 3. If he's in that 1 or 2 hole, we do not win that game. We couldn't get him out. And I'm sitting there going, that guy should talk to me before the game. I would have told him what to do. But those guys were monsters. I mean, I'll give you a funny story without mentioning names. We had a fellow who wasn't doing that well in the 95 tournament that wound up, he wound up going, classic story, wound up going 1 for 19 in the whole tournament. No names. So he gets up in the later innings, hits a 2-run homer in the sectionals. It was at Trell, and we were playing Nottingham, and he hits a home run in the second or third inning. And I always rotated my guys in and out. So he hits one out on the street, 2-run homer. So he gets up around again, and Kenny Contact goes, you want to switch out, because I always switch out guys, like Cardone's 2 classic home runs.
Yeah.
Came in and,
Brilliant coaching.
Substitute, brilliant coaching. So we had a couple guys on, and 2 guys on. It was the top of the 6th inning, and it was a 2-2 game still. So the manager goes to the umpire. He goes like this. He holds up a 4. So the kid walks. I'm coaching third base. I can't stop laughing. All my buddies were over there going, he's walking in. Jeff and Colin are due up. That was the 9th hitter. Double off the wall, 5-2. We win the game. So, but the moral of the story is that young man wound up. He was 1 for 19 in the whole Williamsport tournament. That was his only hit. But the other guy didn't know who he was. He hit the big home run. And he's walking him to get to Jeff and Colin. But we turned the bat note over. So it worked out.
You had mentioned earlier that the coverage of the whole Little League thing at that time, especially 95, was nothing like it is today. And of course, we broadcast on WOBM every game from Williamsport and Bristol, 95, 98, and 99. What I remember was we had problems. We had too many sponsors. Like there was nowhere to put them all because everyone, especially in 98, because 95 had happened, and I think you said the right, sort of set the table for 98. And of course, the games weren't on TV, so we were airing them on radio, and it was the response we got back. We were getting back. Now I'm in Bristol the whole time, and all I'm hearing from back here is, "Oh my goodness, everyone's listening to these games."
Yeah. Well, we talked about it earlier. I'll expand on that in a minute, but I remember we had practice in '99. And I pulled up, and my coach would say, "Hey, listen to WMAM," and Kevin's on the air, and he goes, I can't believe it. Gaynor's ruining another summer of mine. And I was laughing because I got to tell my wife we're not going on vacation again, But I'll tell you a great story with as far as that was concerned. In '98, we did creep up on a lot of people. We had the most losses there. We were the youngest team. We were the smallest team. Okay, fast forward '99. I give my kids so much credit for how they handle things. Well, first of all, we beat a Point Pleasant team like 33-0, and like at that time, every time we stepped on the field, we were up like 2-0. Everybody was like the beast from the east. Of course, they were like, it's like whoa, So we beat up this Point Pleasant team, whatever. And after the game, they're coming over to us asking for the kids' autographs. They were saving up balls and the kids to sign autographs. So we get to the States. We get off the bus at the States, and Philadelphia Inquirer's there, the Daily News, the New York Post, everything. So they're all there, and then my kids get interviewed. And the other team, it might have been Perquonic, I forget who it was, and they're like they're in the other dugout going, like, whoa, what is that? So everywhere we went. So in 1998, when I got up every morning, I had a stack of phone numbers to call, media outlets, radio stations, the LA Times, Houston Chronicle, whatever, newspapers, the whole bit. And I'd have to call, collect, whatever, and I'd call, collect. And I'd get a little annoyed because it was like, well, tell me about your team. Who's your best player? I was like, click, watch a couple games and call me back. So, and this just went on and on and on. All morning I'd be calling these people, So the following year, I get up a couple mornings and I'm looking around, and the uncles who took care of the kids washed their clothes and showed them around, everything, took care of them. I said to one of the guys, I says, hey, how come nobody wants my input? He said, Mike, everybody's here. He says, everybody in the country that has any kind of media thing going on, radio, what he goes, they're all here. He said, because in 98, we crept up on people. Now all of a sudden, we're the beast from the east. When we lost the championship game, that rain game, and we came back the next day, true story, an executive of CBS or whoever, NBC, he puts his arm around me. We lost. We were outside the stadium about 1 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. We played that morning, 11 o'clock, which Williamsport blew that one because, first of all, we shouldn't have ever got started. Poured rain.
Yep.
We got back the next day at 11 o'clock. A bad boom by Williamsport. Williamsport had 2 time slots of all in the week. They had the consolation games at 11, whatever, and then they had, so that day they had an all-star game for the teams that didn't make it a championship game at 5 o'clock. I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah.
And they put us 11. They should have switched us to 5. Win or lose, the ratings would have been through the roof, but everybody had to go back to work. So we're playing at 11 o'clock. Casey threw one pitch. Now, he had pitched the night before, struck out the side. We're in a tent, the media tent. The Rasmus father, whose 2 boys are playing with the Alabama team in the pros.
Yep.
Corey and Cody Rasmus, who are in the pros today. Casey shut him out Monday night, 5-0, and he had said that he was throwing better. He strikes out the side. He says he was throwing better tonight. We didn't have a chance. He said he was throwing better tonight than he was the other night. So he comes back, and they had us stay till like midnight. So we get up the next day, and kids are all droggy, and we got out there. Casey threw one pitch, and I turned around to contact guy. I said, we're in trouble. And the odd part, too, is I had Campese and I had Casey at the top of the steps. And if he doesn't come out, he's ready for the championship game. And Eric, who had struggled in the sectionals, I wasn't using him as much. But he got me through the districts and whatever. But all of a sudden, he just seemed to have lost a little bit. So I used Zach Del Vento and Chris Fontenelli had pitched for me as well as Casey. So I was like, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. So I said, all right. So boom, 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 we're down 3-2. And boy, Casey was upset. He had come into that game. This is interesting. He had come into that game having already thrown 5 consecutive shutouts, sectional, states, whatever. And he strikes out the side netting, and his arm was dead. Little league rules, I guess. The next day.
Right.
So I bring Eric in. Throws a no-hitter. He hit one batter. Blew him away. If who knew?
Yeah.
I made mistakes, but if I had thrown him, and because they weren't hitting him, Eric threw really hard and he slung the ball, and all righties did this, and he hit one batter, threw a no hitter, and we were the home team, so they striked outside. So it was the second inning. They scored the 3 runs. So Eric went out there, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th throws a no hitter. So then Casey, he's fit to be tied. He throws his glove and he goes, "I'm never playing baseball again." He goes, "I'm done."
Yeah.
He goes, "I'm done with baseball." So that afternoon, or the next day, they had an all-star game or something. He goes, "How come I'm not in the all-star game?" And he says, I said, "Well, you said you didn't want to play baseball again." But they were asking for the guys that didn't play that much, So he goes, "How come I'm not in the all-star game?" I said, "You told me you never want to play baseball again, so I didn't put you in."
He played a little baseball after that, Rutgers and all of that stuff. All right, so let's jump back. A couple things in '98. You alluded to it earlier. It was really a challenge for you in that at the time you were a co-owner of a retail business, which you got to be there to make it work. And, the difficult thing with this is you really can't plan ahead. You don't know. Like you said, well, if we lose today, we're home. And then all of a sudden you're in Bristol. But, you also had other parents on that team, and I think specifically in '98, who sort of had to deal with the same thing. You can't really plan for it. It was later. It was in August. It was a little later than it is now, but it was late. And, kids are getting ready for school and all that. How did you deal with all of that, all of those issues? Parents are in Bristol, and now they realize we got to go to Williamsport. How do we do this?
Yeah.
It's a challenge, right?
Oh, it's hard. I mean, the one thing that we're fortunate at. See, I had to be with the boys, so when we went to Bristol, they threw us on a bus and we went up there. So a lot of people had an opportunity because Bristol's only 3 hours away. So they came back, they got their work in, they did what they did. It took a couple hours away. You don't know how fortunate we are to, we drive to the regions and we drive to Williamsport. I was with, I don't know if I had mentioned it earlier, I was with that Yamaguchi. I don't know if we talked about
Hawaii,
that. Yeah, from Hawaii. We were leaving and I went up to him and, just had spoken to him and I says, man, that's because they have to go to San Bernardino or for the regions. So they have to fly to the regions and then fly to Williamsport. I says, whoa, who's picking up that tab? You almost wish you don't win, I mean, because it's.
By the way, Little League does not pay for the families to fly in.
No. They just pick up they throw the coaches and the kids on the bus. I mean, on the plane. And I don't know. It was like John Karkovice, who was with me. He had to take a time off from work because he couldn't be with the kids. Now, other parents, they can still somehow get a couple hours in. Kenny Kondak. He was like that. As a matter of fact, we were reading an article. We were going back because media's been calling me about different things. I was going through some, and my wife was reading something there where we want to pay tribute to our part-time worker Kenny Kondak, who ran our part-time produce manager Kenny Kondak, and I got the biggest kick out of it. I meant to tell him that. So here's this. He was the produce manager at ShopRite. And they were paying tribute to the team, and we want to pay tribute to our part-time produce manager. I thought that was a classic, very funny.
Now, you're there. You're in Bristol, and I'm going to be specific about '98. You're in Bristol. Your wife and your kids and all that. When did it really resonate with you how big things were back here in Toms River, like how big it was? I mean, there were watch parties at what used to be Muggsy's before there were watch parties. They're common today. Then it was never, it was just unbelievable what it was like back here. When did that kind of hit you a little bit?
They never did. Yeah, never hit us because there was no, there was no cell phones, there was no internet, there was nothing. I mean, that's a good question because I don't know how they do it today because I was at the Major League game Sunday night with the Phillies and the Mets, and Big Al's walking around. I'm getting my picture with Big Al. I mean, a kid from Middletown. I mean, he's a meeting and says, "Hey, Big Al, get over here." I'm having my picture taken with Big Al, but he didn't get out of Bristol.
Yeah, that's right. 20 years ago, Big Al doesn't exist.
No, 10 years ago. I mean, now they do the semis. In '95. We had a day game. We got on a bus and we went, and it was snow. And then in '98, all of a sudden, we were going to be on national TV that night. I was like, whoa, when did they start doing this, And then we got there, it was like, there was only, 4 dorms. They were building the others,
right.
A handful of people. And, speaking of this weekend, I'm telling you what, that complex, I never seen so many people in my entire life. Because there's 16 teams up there.
Yeah.
And what a beautiful job they did. I mean, if anyone has kids and has a chance to go up there, it's brilliant. The museum, some guy recognized who I was, so we got the VIP tour. And then they have like all the games. the championship game. So we hit, 1999 screen. We hit the button and all the highlights. And Brett Musburger was the best. The beast is the best. He's like, and then the old Jim Palmer story.
Sure, yeah. They don't practice well.
It's understandable. It's understandable. Do you ever watch them practice?
I think back, and again, like you said, you were not aware of it. Obviously, it really dawned, especially on your players, the trip back home after 98, the fire trucks and the crowd. And then the following week, that parade and then the celebration. I put pictures up last week of that event on the football field at Toms River High School South that I had the pleasure of emceeing. That was kind of overwhelming.
No, that was, and RJ said it the best, when we got together a week or two ago, and he said, they're putting us on a fire truck. What's the point? It's gonna be like 3 people there. Like, what's a fire truck? What are they crazy? And all of a sudden it was, and then the parade was pretty cool. Funny story about that parade. I graduated from Raritan High School, and we had a great class. We have this President Nancy Cherry is beautiful. She just puts it all together. We've had 8 reunions. We had a 5, a 10, a 20, a 25, a 30, a 40, a 45. Just had the 50th. So the only one I didn't make was the 30th. It was the day of the parade. So somebody, I was told, taped the game and they played it during the reunion. So I was there in spirit.
You were there in spirit. The things that went on, and again, they all come back to me when I started thinking about this. That Halloween and the Halloween parade, if you remember, we, WOBM, put a float. All you guys had jackets. We had given you those black satin jackets, and you all marched in the Halloween parade. And people went crazy. And then we had that big banquet at the Arts Center. Remember that in the winter? Which
he was our guest speaker. I think he's, he came in comatose. That guy. I don't remember. He didn't have too much to say.
Yeah, but it was really amazing, and I think there was still a little bit of an innocence at that time. I think that's changed, and I think you're right. In the days of social media, I don't know if it would happen like that, but boy, it was really unique.
Yeah, it was. It was, and that was the other thing. Again, getting back to my business, we're in August. August for a sneaker business is Christmas for anybody else.
Back to school.
And I did majority of the buy-in. My partner did a lot of buy-in, and I was involved with a lot of the footwear. So earlier in the season, I would see what was, I'd print out reports and see what was hot and what wasn't, and you try to the great Joe Adelizi. I love that man. I was just reading an article because, like I said, I was going through some stuff, and he had asked me a question about business. I said, "Wins are up, inventory's down," and it was a great line. And people coming in looking for a size 9 Nike. They don't care that I'm traveling the country with a bunch of 12-year-olds. In the meantime, my manager, who's trying to feed a family, a commission off of sales, it's like this, the cupboard's bare, So, but that post, we talked about that a little bit. That post victory, I'm telling you, we were in Manhattan anywhere between 8 to 10 to 12 times. From that point on to we were in a Macy's Day Parade, with the bat dinners, baseball assistants, where they had 39 Hall of Famers. They honored the 69 Mets. I've heard they've since canceled it, but the premise was that they raised money for ball players who are experiencing hard times.
Yep.
And raised some money for him. And this particular fellow that they were raising it for, his wife was in a big screen, and he did the chew, and he was on the screen. He had no lips and no tongues. What an impression that made on us! It was unbelievable. And then we did the the Super Bowl,
game,
the Yankee game, the Giant game. Monmouth Park was a freaking hoot. They had us on some engine or something going across the finish line. But when we got there early. They had all the kids in the pool with the jockeys. They're hanging out with the jockeys.
Same size.
Same size on the pool. Hey, who's riding the horse today? Me or you?